Let's get to our main man from CBS Sports, Jeff Kerr, joining us now on Birds 365. Jeff, a nice new setup for you, brother. Good overreaction Monday. The Philadelphia Eagles are NFC champions, Jeff, and going to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years. A remarkable year and a remarkable journey, which will now end in Super Bowl 59 in 2 weeks from today. How you doing on this Monday morning, Jeff?
Beat the dragon, you gotta slay him.
It's great. Great first comment by you.
Rick Blair rules, baby.
Also, I'm going to put this out right now. I don't want to hear one single person blame the officials.
Oh, you're going to hear it all. You're going to hear it for 2 weeks, dude.
Well, that's loser mentality. It really is.
I agree.
Like, Commanders fans blaming the 4th and 5 pass from Hurts to Browns. Oh, Saquon was holding. Yeah, did you guys seem to forget you gave up 55 points?
Boy, I didn't even notice Saquon holding. I have to rewatch the game. Obviously, I haven't.
Look, here we have a couple resident Commander fans here, but look, this is Brian Harding checks in. Still a Commander fan around here, fellas. Good God, did it have to be 55?
But I will say this. There have been a lot of Commanders fans that have been civil, I thought, throughout the week. It was the younger fans that they don't know any better. They don't know what a joke their franchise has been for 35 years that actually thought they were going to come in here and beat the Eagles. And I said all week, look, the Eagles almost beat them, should have beat them, with a backup quarterback running a starting quarterback's game plan. So,
I firmly thought when there was concern over Jalen, I thought not that it would be easy, but I thought they could win the game with Kenny Pickett. I still believe that.
I still believe that too. I agree with you.
So yeah, I mean, on that 4th and 5 play, and I don't know, maybe I didn't notice it, but again, I have to rewatch the game. Maybe Saquon was holding. Again, they're human beings. Some calls are going to go your way. Some calls are not. Cover AJ on the go route.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, money throw from a quarterback that people say can't throw.
Great throw, great catch. And yeah, I think AJ heard some of he's having a bad playoffs. I mean, the first play, the crack toss. The crack was AJ, who knocked the edge rusher off his feet.
He said he knocked 3 defenders down.
He pulled over Bobby Wagner as well because Bobby Wagner tripped on Dante Fowler. I mean, that was AJ on the crack toss. That's a wide receiver.
I mean, I'll tell you what, AJ Brown, the Eagles embody being physical. No, I don't think anybody's more physical. There are a lot of physical players on that team, but with the position AJ Brown plays, I don't think anybody's more physical than him. If you're just combining players,
there's a lot. There are a lot of physical. A lot of teams talk about being physical. The Eagles really are physical.
Yeah, so
true. There's so many. Landon would be at the top of my list. Landon Dickerson just beats people up. And that's a big injury to keep an eye on to see what happens there. But
it takes a lot to get Landon Dickerson out of football.
Yeah. AJ's very busy. Zach Bond, man.
Even Saquon's really physical,
Saquon.
Oh, yeah. He had a couple.
Here's the thing, and you're Saquon's PR representative. So I'm gonna give my kudos to Saquon. And I said it, and I don't know if you popped on that early. And you've been around this league now long enough to know this too, as well, Jeff. People build up superstars to such a level that they never live up to the hype because they can't, because they're human beings. He's surpassed the hype somehow. You never see it. Well, you see it. You rarely see it. And I say the same thing with Vic Fangio on the coaching side of it. Like, his reputation was so ridiculous. I'm like, I go into it. This guy's not going to be as good as his reputation. He's been better. Yeah. Same thing on the field with Saquon. That's what I said. There's no freaking way this guy's as good as reputation. Well, I just saw 6 years in New York, blah, blah, blah. I said it all off season. He's better. I admit it. He's better.
One of the things I'm getting a lot of flack for right now, because I do an overreaction piece every Sunday. And one of my overreactions was, and I said it wasn't, Saquon Barkley's having the greatest season for any player in NFL history. And people are just ripping me apart saying Terrell Davis, Terrell Davis, Terrell Davis. I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Saquon Barkley's 30 yards away from passing Terrell Davis. He's 3 yards away from passing Terrell Davis from yards per script. If he gets that and the Super Bowl, I don't know how you argue it.
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, greatest season of all time. There's so many quarterbacks, and, you got to go back to Jim Brown and all that stuff. But I'll just say he's already one of the greatest seasons of all time already. I mean, if you're in the conversation, that to me is good enough, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I still look, I didn't have an MVP vote this year.
I did.
Yeah. Did you vote for Allen or Jackson?
I'm not allowed to say, but
Okay.
I can say
After it releases, right?
Yeah, after it releases.
Yeah, after it releases, yeah, that's right.
I can say that Saquon was in my top 5, but that's all I can say.
I knew he was going to be top 5, but just from talking to him, talking to enough people around him, I think he's taking a little personal that he wasn't picked. I think he knows.
Well, it's a quarter. I've warned fans on this show. It's a quarterback award. Understand 2 things. First of all, number 1, forget about the playoff stuff because it's a regular season award. Number 1, so it doesn't matter. Even he's phenomenal in the regular season. He may deserve it from the regular season, but again, people will point to look what he did in the playoffs. That doesn't matter. Number 1, so forget that. So that and it's a quarterback. He is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. That's the award for Saquon Barkley that everybody should be focused on. And I'm very, very confident he is going to win that award. MVP is what it is at this point. It's best quarterback.
Which again, I think you got to make exceptions to that rule in certain times. I thought this year was one.
And there has been in rare occasions, and this certainly could have been. And that's why anytime you see a running back or a wide receiver in the top 5, that's validation. It really is, whether people know it or not.
I mean, I don't think Jerry Rice ever won MVP. I got to look that up.
Because, I'll say this. I guarantee you that top 5, and they already announced the
the finalists.
They announced the finalists. The other 4 are quarterbacks, I believe. Yeah. I mean,
Goff, Allen,
Lamar,
and Burrow.
And Burrow.
Yeah. I mean, he's the only non-quarterback in there. That should be validation and understand what kind of
I still think it was crazy. I had a conversation with Bill Cowher this week, just previewing the conference championship games, and he just said it unprompted. And I'm switching sides of the ball here. He goes, Jalen Carter's the defensive player of the year. You know that. And I'm like, well, Zach Bond's a finalist. He said, I said what I said.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Jalen Carter allows Zach Bond to create a lot of plays like he does. Is that fair to say?
I think that's more fair. Well, he complimented both. Right.
Well, they both deserve compliments because
Jalen Carter is the most talented Eagles defender. Zach Bond had the best season for an Eagles defender.
Yeah, and he did say, like, look, at the finalists, Zach Bond should win it. But
yeah, he's not going to win it either.
No, he's not going to win it. That's what I would say. I'm like,
Jeff, I want to ask you about QB1, man. Jalen Hurts. Look, love him or hate him, the guy is a lightning rod in terms of talking points around the NFL. How much did that game mean for him yesterday to be able to deliver a performance like that on such a big stage? Obviously, he's got one more left in him, and if you know Jalen, you know that he's already focused on that one and wants to win that one. But just your thoughts on Jalen Hurts and what that game yesterday meant for him as he's now becoming, I mean, call a spade. He's the second most successful quarterback in the NFL in the last 3 years behind Patrick Mahomes. I mean, no other quarterback has had success like Jalen Hurts has. That's a fact, whether you like him or you don't like him. Your thoughts on Jalen Hurts?
There's only been 8 quarterbacks to go to 2 Super Bowls in their first 5 years, and the other 7 are Hall of Famers or are going to be in the Hall of Fame. One's Mahomes. Jalen Hurts is in that category. Love him or hate him. You know, and Nick Sirianni said it best yesterday. Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. Like, you know, why are we punishing guys for having great players around. And Jordan Malott gave me an awesome quote yesterday. My column was on Jalen and how he shows up in these big moments. And I asked Malott about that, and he goes, you know what? He'll never admit it, but he does hear what people say about him, especially the doubters. And he's one of those watch this type people.
That's fine. I always say use the fuel, use whatever works. Like, you know, I know our buddy Mike Sealski put out his column, which the Eagles are not underdogs anymore. Well, they aren't, but they are for this game.
They are for this game.
Even though they shouldn't be because of the Chiefs' reputation, they'll use that. Use it. You know, you're actually the big bully on the block. You know, obviously they destroyed Washington. Washington doesn't even deserve to be on the same field with them. But everybody's got this underdog mentality in Philadelphia. This team is rarely the underdog. So that, but if it works, use it. And that's what I'm saying about Jalen Hurts. I don't think people treat Jalen Hurts unfairly. I don't. I'm sorry. You know, every quarterback, the only slight difference is I do believe some of the national people, and you know the names. I'm not going to say the names.
Yeah.
Use the Philadelphia fan base because it's so passionate. And they know if they say something, it'll create engagement, yada, yada, yada. I do believe there's some of that. But you know this, Jeff, because you cover the league as a whole. Every quarterback, the good ones, the great ones, the bad ones, are always under a microscope in their particular city. Every single one of them.
My philosophy has always been on Jalen, and I always have a lot of numbers to back up why he wins. That's why I do it. It's why he wins. But look, if someone wants to tell me Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, I'm not going to argue with them. But Jalen Hurts outplays these guys. He outplayed Jaden Daniels. He's outplayed Joe Burrow. He outplayed Josh Allen last year.
He outplayed Patrick Mahomes in Super Bowl 57.
Yeah, but he had the one thing he did. He fumbled. That was the one.
But that doesn't mean, like, Patrick Mahomes occasionally gets outplayed by the other quarterback playing him. It doesn't mean the other quarterback is better than Patrick Mahomes.
But on that day, that's what I'm going with. When you play the one-on-one game, he seems to come out on top.
John, I hear what you're saying about every quarterback's in a microscope. Go in Baltimore right now. They're all talking about Lamar Jackson. I understand. You're right about that. But I do think there is a question about Jalen that's a little bit different than those quarterbacks I've done this too.
With all due respect,
you know, I mean, can Jalen Hurts throw the ball to win the game? If you know, can you take away Saquon and make Jalen Hurts beat you? A lot of people say that a lot about Jalen Hurts, and he takes it as a slight on what his
Washington dared that yesterday, and Jalen Hurts goes 13 of 16 from the pocket on him.
Well, again, if it works, use whatever you need to use. But again, you know, I'm not going to lie to people and say Jalen Hurts should be in the conversation with Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. And
he's not in that conversation.
And people
but
can
he wins
bring
more
up
than Lamar, and Lamar wins a lot.
And that's my point. People, there is a supporting cast. One of the things I hate is when people boil everything down to quarterback versus quarterback. There is a lot of people trying to win a football game, and a lot of people contribute to winning a football game. It isn't quarterback versus quarterback. So when people say Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, well, again, you can bring up all the wins and losses, and the Eagles are playing, and Joe Burrow didn't even make the playoffs. You can't put people in a vacuum, but you give them the exact same supporting cast, and Joe Burrow's probably going to be better than Jalen Hurts, and that's why people say it. That's why people say it. I ask you, Jeff Kerr, Joe Burrow, not even a playoff quarterback. Is he a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts?
Absolutely.
Well,
I'm not going to debate that. Like, and that's fine to admit. Like, but I can also, you know, I also hate playing the if game too, because if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. But that's I've heard so many if stories this season. With
What's her pronouns?
Don't you get me going.
Oh, we're off the rails early on a Victory Monday, everybody.
No, well, I just mean I try to elevate the conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
I hear you,
It's
John.
not who has the most Super Bowls. Tom Brady broke everybody because what he does, and to a certain degree, Patrick Mahomes as well, is not normal.
Yeah. So yesterday I was actually in the CBS Slack room. A couple people. One of the, I don't know if it was. Yeah, I think it was one of the others. Who goes, if you listen to Brady deeply, remember I'm not listening to the game. He really don't like the way Jalen Hurts is, and I said, "You mean the ultimate game manager for 5 of the first 7 years of his career doesn't like someone who game manages? Isn't that rich?"
Were you next to me when Brady came down? Brady walked right.
Yeah, I was next to you. Yep.
Brady walked right by us, and there's this weirdo. I don't know. I don't.
The security guy?
Yeah. This weirdo security guy acting like he's, I don't know, Queen Elizabeth or something. I'm like, yeah, we're fine. We've seen Tom Brady in the past. We're not gonna.
He don't need a credential.
Yeah. Anyway,
he actually went to me. He goes, "You don't look like your picture." I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I just took that picture."
We've seen Tom. We're not starstruck.
Yeah, we know who Kevin Burkhardt is too.
Yeah, unfortunately, for Kevin. But
they're calling the Super Bowl, right? It is them on Fox.
Yeah. They're calling the Super Bowl.
Which is weird because Tom now owns part of the Raiders as well. But yeah, Tom's always at the Super Bowl. He's still at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and he broke a lot of people. But overall, that game, Jeff, I go back to the dichotomy, and I want to get your thoughts on 18 plays, 54 yards, 2 fourth down conversions. Then all of a sudden, Dan Quinn lays up at the end.
Yeah. Why? You went for it on 4th and 2. Why not go for it on 4th and 3? What's the difference?
At the 16-yard line.
But Jaden Daniels is your quarterback.
And at least if you don't get it, you haven't backed up. You have to score touchdowns. I for the life of me, I'm sure Dan Quinn got asked about it. I didn't read Dan's transcript.
He did. I didn't hear the answer, but I was reading the.
I just don't understand these coaches on the road in Philadelphia. On the road in Philadelphia. You got to be bold.
By the way, didn't it feel like the Eagles' offense, a couple of the guys I asked, didn't feel like they took it personally what Joe Witt said this week?
I don't know why they would. Boy, I thought that was overblown.
It was. I didn't even write a story on it. I'm like, I don't care. It's fine. But why would you give anybody motivation?
That's what I thought. I'm like, what he said doesn't stick out to me.
You know what? And
choosing to say it is certainly a choice in that spot.
This is my prime example, and I'm going to go back to a Penn State thing here. When James Franklin literally said to Marcus Freeman's face, Notre Dame should be in a conference. You do not say that. You just don't. Even if you're right, you don't say it.
Yeah, but here's the difference. James Franklin did it like unabated, like he wasn't prompted. Witt was asked a question. He was answering a question. And to me, I think most people don't understand the rule. The rule is when quarterbacks turn into runners, they lose their extra protection. You're supposed to tackle the quarterback like a running back, which is what he was trying to impart. It's the rule. You're allowed. You're supposed to. They don't have any. I think most fans don't realize, and they'll say because of Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
you do not have extra protection as a quarterback when you are a runner.
Know why I feel Eagles fans feel that way when it comes to their quarterback getting hit out of balance? Because growing up, I've seen certain quarterbacks for this franchise get absolutely screwed over when they are out of balance, and I mean out of balance, and they get hit. And Donovan McNabb was the #1 culprit of it.
Well,
for years.
I mean, you could point to bad calls by officials, but bad calls are bad calls.
Yeah.
They're
and
not.
I never blame the officials for it. I'm just like, come on, like the guy's way out of bounds. That's why I had no problem with the Sandstrom, Saquon Barkley thing yesterday, I'm like, oh, they're finally calling this stuff.
Well, that was, yeah. A bunch of Eagles talked about their emotion. They were too emotional. And the Eagles that was one of their things Nick Sirianni stressed, execution, not emotion. And Washington came in as this overly emotional team, and Lattimore fell apart, and Sandstrom fell apart. Really, the end of the half, it was 14-12.
Yeah.
That's the other key point of the game. It was 14-12. The Eagles were facing a 4th and 5 from the I believe Washington 45. 4th and 5. Could have punted it away, flipped the field. Braden Mann's a good punter, probably pins him inside the 10. Eagles go for it. By the way, where are all the take the points, split the field people? Eagles go for it. That's the go route to A.J. Brown, the 31-yard go route.
That was the turning point of the game.
80 seconds from that play, it went from 14-12 to, I believe, 27-12 in 80 seconds. That was the game.
Yeah, because after that was the forced fumble, right?
Yep, on the kickoff, on the ensuing kickoff. They completely fell apart. And over that span, they had 3 big penalties. They had the 16-yard pass interference on Lattimore in the end zone, which was, by the way, on a 3rd and 13. So they were on the verge of holding the Eagles to a field goal if this moron, who, by the way, is a veteran player, just plays with more discipline. And then they had unnecessary roughness calls on Lattimore again and Sandstrom, both corners. It was a really bad game for the Washington cornerbacks. Really, really bad game.
Yeah. Look, for whatever Washington's defense thought they were, they clearly, I mean, you knew they were the weak link of this football team. I really did. I talked to enough people in that locker room the last time they lost to them. But, they didn't say it out loud, but they really believed they were going to put up 50 against them the last time they played them.
I never expect anyone to put up 50, but
I think that's how they felt the game was going when Jalen got hurt. And it wasn't a knock on Kenny because they still put points with Kenny, but they knew Kenny was running Jalen's game plan.
They put a ton of points up with Kenny.
Should have won.
33, I think they had in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, Devontae knows he catches a pass.
Jeff, I want to ask about Nick Sirianni, man. He's another guy that I feel like has become a debated lightning rod in the league, where other people don't like him. Some people love him. Your thoughts on what this means for him and what his legacy is going to ultimately be? Second Super Bowl in 4 years as a head coach, pretty unbelievable stuff. Obviously, we talk about the winning record all of the time, and I know he's got great talent, but there's been a lot of teams with great talent, man. He's clearly a great leader of men. And has this
Matt LaFleur has great talent.
Yeah, everybody's got. I mean, come on,
never been here.
NFL, man. There's a lot of good talent.
By the way, who was the toughest opponent for the Eagles in the playoffs? Because I think it was Green Bay.
I think it was Green Bay.
I think it decreased. The toughest was Green Bay, then the Rams, then the Commanders.
Yeah,
I think
the
it
bracket
decreased
fell their
as
way.
it went on. Yeah.
I think with the way the games now, with the benefit of hindsight, I think the Rams played them the hardest, obviously, because they were in that game with a chance to win at the end. The Packers were not, and obviously the Commanders were not. But I do agree on paper that Green Bay is probably the hardest.
Well, I thought at least the Green Bay defense did some decent things.
That's true.
They took away.
I think the Eagles kept the Rams in the game. I truly believe that.
The elements playing a factor too. I mean, the Rams could easily won it. They intended to roll over twice.
That's true, but you have Jake Elliott missed, extra points. You have not being able to punch in the football from the one, from a false start. The Eagles, a lot of unforced errors in that game.
Yeah.
That's why I think Green Bay was a little bit. I think they played them a little tougher, even though the score wasn't as close. The Rams were sort of like just scuttling, and we're lucky to be in it at the end. But they did have a chance to win the game, no question about it.
But Zander, to answer your question about Nick Sirianni, this is why I think him and Jalen Hurts can bet. Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell, they were the two that everybody kind of laughed at when they got hired. And they were, true. And with their opening news conferences, they both took different approaches, but everybody's like, is this team serious right now? Like, right. This is the guy. And this is where I'll correlate it to Jalen Hurts. The pundits cannot admit they were wrong. Like, they cannot admit the guy that got benched for Tua in the national championship game is a winning quarterback. The same way people can't admit the guy they thought was the worst head coaching hire was the best. So they'll go to great lengths to just kind of, bemoan him. So, same way with Doug Pearson. Mike Lombardi. I will never listen to a single word Mike Lombardi said just because he said Doug Pearson was the worst head coaching hire in NFL history. Mike Lombardi should not be allowed to talk on a platform. Like, I'm dead serious. I will never I'm blocked by it.
Well,
I mention all the time.
Well, I don't know why people like to make these grandiose proclamations about coaching hires right away. I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, I was pretty convicted on Liam Cohen and his unprofessionalism, but I didn't go as far as saying he'll be a bad coach because I have no idea. I said it's not a good sign because I think it's a leadership position.
Yeah, I don't think you're out of bounds, John, saying that was a terrible handling of that situation.
Yeah. Well, same thing with Brian Schottenheimer. Like, when I said, the Cowboys are, and everybody goes, you don't like, I'm like, I like Brian Schottenheimer. I just don't like what the Cowboys did to get Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah, how they did it, which is fair.
I mean, what a vote of no confidence in the guy. Let's announce it at 11 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah, Jerry's a weirdo.
Yeah. Well, John, I don't know if you saw, I guess I had the stat of the day yesterday, and I didn't even realize it when I tweeted it.
What's that?
The Eagles have more rushing touchdowns in the NFC Championship game than the Cowboys had all season. And, Cowboys fans are in my mention. Oh, you can't get us out of your heads. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I haven't done that with any team.
Whatever makes you feel better, Cowboys fans. Yeah, 7 rushing touchdowns yesterday is absurd in a playoff.
So someone put, here's a stat. The Cowboys have 5 Super Bowls. Okay, but that's
well, they go. Hey, that's why I'm not a stat guy, because you go back and forth. Cowboy, well, we have 5 Super Bowls. Well, we had 7 rushing touchdowns in the NFC Championship. I mean, it's one game. That means nothing to the next game. That's
but it is funny.
That's what John Gruden said. Like, the Eagles, I'm pretty confident. No offense, Eagles fans, because I think they have a good chance to win the Super Bowl. But I'm taking the under on 7 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. I am too. Well, I have to make my pick today. I'm always the guy who has to bite the bullet for CBS and make
your pick. You got 2 weeks. You got to make your pick.
I know. That's what I told them. But they always want me to go first, and I'm apparently the guy who usually gets them right.
They want you to make a pick 2 weeks from the bowl.
Yeah,
I'm calling foul.
I only have.
We don't even know if Landon Dickerson's healthy.
Yeah,
we don't. Yeah.
I'm 8-1 since I started working at CBS and picking the Super Bowl. You guys want to guess the loss?
Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl 2057.
Yeah, because I thought the Eagles pass rush would get enough pressure to get Mahomes.
The field did you in. The
field did me in. So you know what? I already Chiefs Nation's already laughing because they go, well, you pick the Chiefs all the time except for the 1 year. I'm like, I might pick you this year.
If they're making you do that today, are you ready to disclose your pick on Birds 365?
I'm going to tell you guys right now. Right. I have learned. Do not pick against Patrick Mahomes and Andy.
Oh, no.
All Eagles fans will rejoice.
No, Jeff.
But see, I remember I picked the Eagles 2 years ago and they lost. So maybe there's some
I don't think they could screw up the Superdome field. I don't think they
can either. By the way, the Eagles won there already this year, and Saquon had a good game again.
They did not play a good game as a whole. That was the Dallas Goddard Keystone Cops game. That game was lost. And
You know, I know we talk about how the bye week things change. I still say that win kind of changed the season.
They were going to lose that game until 3 Saints defenders ran into themselves.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're a Dennis Allen coach football team.
Well,
Oh, Jeff, you were right about that guy, man. You've been on this show.
I've been right about. There are certain guys I know I'm right about.
He just got hired, didn't he, Dennis Allen?
Oh yeah, where he should be as a defensive coordinator.
Right.
Like again.
He's a fine defensive coordinator.
I love Steve Spagnuolo. I'm telling you guys. I mean, I am one of the biggest Steve Spagnuolo fans on the planet. That man should never be a head coach again.
All right, let me ask you this, because John said something about Steve Spags that caught my attention before you came on. Steve Spags or Vic Fangio, who has the advantage in the Super Bowl just from defensive coordinators? Who do you like better in that game?
Spags is going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, see, that's what everybody says. Who does Sean
But this is where I'm going to go with here.
By the way, Vic's going to the Hall of Fame too, but I digress. Go ahead.
But I think Vic has done more with his team this year, in my opinion.
Okay, so all right, so Jeff, you're right on the fence. Who's got the advantage in Super Bowl 59?
I'm curious to see what Andy Reid has in store for Vic.
Yeah, I am too. Boy, that's the bet. Talk about
that's the matchup.
A lot of great matchups.
Well, that's the matchup. I mean, that's who's going against each other.
Yeah, Andy Vic is just.
Here's what I said, and I don't know if you were on in the green room when I said it, so I'll say it again. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Nick Sirianni, Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, and on and on and on. Say Vic Fangio's the toughest to deal with. They don't say Steve Spagnuolo. They can. Who copies? How many people have run Vic's scheme versus how many people have run Steve's scheme? Who do they copy?
Well, Steve's scheme's pretty much extinct. Like Jim Johnson and the blitzing thing, that's been in the past.
Brian
Flores does it. You know, John, you just listed a bunch of names, but those were all young coaches. I'd like to ask Andy Reid, Sean Payton.
I haven't heard. I haven't heard
Pete Carroll.
Andy.
Like, what do they think?
By the way, they may have said it in the past. These are the people I remember who specifically said it. And by the way, and McVay's coach actually hired.
And Vic's been around as long as Andy.
Yeah, and Kyle, and Nick, Kevin O'Connell as well. I think all of them have hired defensive coaches to run Vic's scheme, because they felt as offensive guys, that's why they hired them. That's the most difficult scheme to deal with.
You know, another subplot for this Super Bowl, I don't think everybody says Bill Belichick had one of the most prepared teams ever for playoff games and Super Bowls.
That's true.
I think Andy he tops it. Like, I was rewatching the AFC Championship game this morning because I didn't get to see it firsthand. I'm like, boy, Andy was prepared for this guy. They were prepared for the Bills.
And Andy on 2 weeks is a scary beast.
Andy Reid on a bye week is just scary in and of itself. Like, I remember that's why I thought the Eagles were going to beat the Patriots 20 years ago at this time, because I'm like, Andy, it's a bye week. It's Andy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's too young.
Andy, look, Andy's phenomenal.
Just gets better too.
You're right. Jeff's right, and it's tough to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. He is right, but I do think the Eagles have the better roster.
Yeah. I agree with you. So I actually think the Eagles are a better team than they were 2 years ago, and I actually think the Chiefs were a worse team than they were 2 years ago, and the Chiefs won by 3.
Yeah,
they have a weird. The Chiefs, though, I don't like to quantify their talent in the same way, because they just always seem to figure out how to win every game they're in, no matter how high.
12-0 in one-score games this year.
It's unreal. I mean, what they're able to do. But I will say this about the 2022 team compared to this: we got a lot of upgrades this year in 24 compared to 22. At least in my opinion.
Well, they got the big upgrades are Saquon and
Vic.
And Vic.
Here's what it is. Jonathan Gannon becomes Vic Fangio. Miles Sanders becomes Saquon Barkley. James Bradbury has become Quinyon Mitchell. Maddox has become DeJean. Hargrave has become Carter, but you lost Fletcher Cox. And TJ Edwards has become Zach Bond.
This is another key factor here. So many guys on this team have played in a Super Bowl now. This isn't new for Jalen Hurts. This
Yeah,
isn't
but
new
I
for-
also think there's, like, with all due respect, I think people forget how good some of those players were during
James
the
Bradbury
Super
was a
Bowl.
stud.
Yeah, he was a second team All Pro. Like, Quinyon wasn't a second team All Pro. You know,
Quinyon made Terry McLaurin, and he kept him in hell yesterday, though.
I think because of what went on the year after, people don't remember how good James Bradbury was that year.
Yeah. Everybody remembers the penalty in 2023.
Yeah. Avonte Maddox was one of the best slot corners. Cooper's one of the best slot corners. But again,
CJ did not have a good Super Bowl.
CJ has actually played better this year than he played 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's been great this year.
And he's still getting the picks.
Yeah, I was a little tougher on him earlier in the year. He's really come on strong and had a really good year. He makes impact plays, man. He's a very physical player.
I'm going to say this too. This Chiefs offensive line is nowhere near the Chiefs offensive line that faced the Eagles 2 years ago.
But I will say the biggest trump card, and we go back to the quarterback. The quarterback was worthy of being the runner-up to the MVP, which was Patrick Mahomes.
And in most years, he's a Super Bowl champion.
Much better season than he had this year. Much better season.
No, I always said when the Eagles fired Andy, my biggest fear was Andy actually beating them in the Super Bowl. Thank God the Eagles did get one before Andy did that proclamation.
Boy, I think all Eagles fans, not this upcoming week, I don't understand Eagles fans that don't root for Andy Reid.
I don't either.
Not in this instance, but
yeah, no. I said last night, I still love Andy Reid.
This fan base is so spoiled because of Andy Reid.
Everything
in the way, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Andy Reid set all the culture, all the philosophy?
Yeah, everything they do today, traces back to Andy Reid.
Yeah, everything.
And I hate to give him credit, but I will, because he's got a big enough ego. And Joe Banner does not get enough credit. Everything they do can be traced back to Andy Reid and Joe Banner today. Every single thing.
And by the way, Andy Reid, like Nick Sirianni, was laughed at his initial press conference. He was is this guy serious type? Who is this guy?
Well, nobody knew who he was.
Yeah. Why did they hire him over Tim Haslett?
Same thing with Nick. Nobody knew who he was. So
yeah, like you knew Andy Reid was the quarterbacks coach of the Packers, and that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
what's crazy about Nick Sirianni, and I've used this stat before, but Jeff, I want to run it by you because you love stats, and I always. Jeff, you're my stat guy. If I ever need stats, I go over to your Twitter. I start looking at your tweets.
Yeah. That's why I tell people, hey, borrow them at your own will.
Oh, I give you credit though, because obviously you're loved here on JAKIB Sports. But think about what Nick Sirianni has a chance to do right now. We're talking about Andy Reid right now. Obviously, clear Hall of Fame coach. Could be one of the greatest coaches of all times.
That could be.
You think he will be?
Andy Reid? Andy Reid,
greatest coach of all time. That's a big statement.
Andy Reid's
I think Andy Reid's better than Bill Belichick.
Andy Reid's already.
Well, already top 5. I said best of all time.
He's in the conversation. Like I said,
I think so too.
With Jeff and his conversation about Saquon's season, if you're in the conversation, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be other options.
Yeah.
When you talk about best of all time. Is Michael better than LeBron? LeBron, Will Chamberlain, yada, yada, yada.
But you're in the conversation.
He's in the fucking conversation. And if you're in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, listen, here's my point, Jeff. Nick Sirianni's in his second Super Bowl in 4 years, and he's got a chance to win it. Let's see if he does. It took Bill Belichick 7 seasons to win his first Super Bowl. It took Andy Reid 21 years to win his first Super Bowl. It took Tom Landry, now this is way back, 12 years. Don Shula, 10 years to win their first Super Bowl. I mean, this is pretty – Nick Sirianni, don't look now, but he's another guy who's on an unbelievable trajectory that every person who criticizes him is eventually going to have to eat their words if he continues anything close to what he's done in the first 4 years.
Oh, yeah. If he wins this year, I mean, that's a Super Bowl title in 4 years. That's 2 Super Bowl appearances in 4 years. But, man, I'm going to feel bad for him because there's so many haters for Nick. And it's not even in the Philadelphia region. It's everywhere. If the Eagles lose the Super Bowl, they are going to rip Nick to death. They are.
This was a hell of a coach job this year by Nick Sirianni. I'll say that right now before I know the result of the Super Bowl.
By the way, there is a bigger loser energy than blaming the officials for a loss. You guys want to know what that is?
Let's hear it.
I'd rather lose. I'd rather go 3-14 than lose in the get to the Super Bowl and lose every year. I remember Eagles fans saying that when Andy was losing conference championship games. I'm like, boy, you never won anything in your life.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, that is so.
Well, I think the biggest is what you said. I think the people setting up early the excuses, that is the biggest loser mentality there is. Just go out and win the game.
I'll tell you what.
That's how the players.
You know why everybody hates the Chiefs so much? Because they win every single year. And everybody couldn't wait till the Patriots got knocked off their perch. They did. And now everybody just hates the new bully on the block.
Everybody hates the dynasty, except
I love it. I love how this team
except the people that love the dynasty.
Yeah, like I was so arrogant about picking the Chiefs to beat the Bills, and I literally went on Kansas City and Buffalo radio stations and said, "Look, until Josh Allen beats him, I'm picking the Chiefs."
What's his playoff record now versus Chiefs? 0-4?
Josh Allen is the first quarterback in NFL history to lose 4 times to the same opponent.
In the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
He had some fucking help.
Yeah. Well, Dalton Kincaid needs to catch a ball.
Kincaid needs to. Sean McDermott needs to burn 13 seconds, needs to learn how to do that.
Yep. You know what?
See, that's what drives me crazy. Josh Allen's 0-4 against Kansas City.
Well, Sean McDermott is too.
Yeah.
He can't beat him. And he's a great coach. But
do you guys like McDermott, or what do you think there?
I love Sean McDermott. I've said this all the time. You know why no one can beat Andy Reid in the playoffs? Because every one of Andy Reid's freaking assistants are in the AFC, and Andy Reid just owns them.
Look, if you can't, and I think I'm a big continuity guy, but if you can't manage 13 seconds, you're out. Sorry, you're out.
I still can't.
Should have been out years ago.
I still can't believe Mahomes and the Chiefs pulled that off that year. Oh, by the way, they didn't even win the Super Bowl that year. They didn't even get the Super Bowl that year.
13 seconds. Get out. If you can't manage that, you can't squib kick it. You don't have enough common sense. Get out.
By the way, Spags, I'm going to say this. Jalen Hurts has been really good against the blitz this year. I know he takes a lot of sacks.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going to have the success against the blitz.
How was it yesterday, Jeff? Because just to the eye, again, I didn't rewatch the game. I was on the show. I was on the air.
Another thing, real quick before Jeff jumps in, there's a big flipping difference between Kansas City's blitz and Washington's blitz. That's another thing with blitz statistics. Like that all like, okay, so-and-so's blitz ain't Spagnuolo's blitz. Like, look at that he got 2 people loose against Josh Allen. Josh Allen still made a brilliant throw under duress. Dalton Kincaid should have caught it. But it was a desperation throw. Why was it a desperation throw? Because he got home. Now, one of these jabroni teams, Carolina, might blitz and get stoned all the time, but that gets all correlated in. So the context gets lost.
Well,
this is the Kansas City blitz. This is the Kansas City blitz.
The Chiefs have Trent McDuffie and no one else does. What a stud.
Yeah, he is a stud.
What a stud. George Karlaftis is a stud, and they got him in the same draft.
Press, cover, corner. You will see this week. And the Eagles will play too high and try to not confuse, try to limit explosive plays and get Patrick Mahomes frustrated.
By the way, John, there's someone who can make sure Howie Roseman's ego doesn't get stroked any more than it does, and he's the GM of the Chiefs.
Brett Veach.
Brett Veach can draft and sign people just as well as Howie Roseman.
Yeah, Brett Veach is remarkable.
Well, I told you Brad Holmes would win, and he did win the PFWA Executive of the Year. Howie wasn't going to win it. But top 5, though.
But this is my opinion. when you sign 2 effing all pros on the same day, yeah, that's all I need to say.
That's true.
You
That's
signed
true.
it, and I know you can't predict that on March 13th, but
we got sidetracked, Jeff. How was Jalen yesterday versus the Blitz? Were you able to log the numbers? Because it didn't feel
you know
like
what? Let me look it up for you real quick. I got my
just the eye test to me, Jeff. It didn't. It
okay.
looked like they got us on a couple of those third. I remember the third down where before Jake missed the 54-yarder, Frankie Louvu had a big sack there. That was off the Blitz, obviously. I thought they got Jalen a couple of times yesterday.
Okay, so he was 7 of 13, 116 yards, 84 passer rating. But the key is Jaden Daniels was 2 of 6 for 29 yards.
Wow. And Jaden was good against the Blitz all year. He torched us last time.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That's why I didn't get why Vic blitzed him as much. And guess what? Vic did not blitz him as much.
Yeah, right. It makes sense. No doubt about it. All right, Jeff, man, we got to run. We got Chris Franklin coming up. Just your final thoughts, man. The Eagles dropped 55 yesterday, which is insane. A historic win to go back to the Super Bowl. Their second in 3 years. What a time to be a Philadelphia Eagle fan. What a time to cover this team. It's great for us to be able to do it, Jeff. What's your final thoughts on that crazy game yesterday and now the Super Bowl rematch 2 weeks from now?
Now, I posted this on a lot of my personal pages that are locked, but I'm so fucking happy for Saquon Barkley. Like, you guys have no idea the bullshit he went through in New York. It's my God. Like when seeing him with his family, seeing him talk to guys in the locker room, talking to a couple people in that circle.
Settle down.
I'm telling you, man, like it makes the season that much better.
Well, I will say this about Saquon. He's got to be one of the most likable football players of all time. Just as someone who's not even an Eagles fan. Like you watch the game and you watch a game like that, maybe you haven't watched the Eagles all year. He is a likable guy, man. Saquon.
A lot of likable guys on this particular team. And he's one of them. Yeah, he's considering, how big of a star he is, he's pretty well grounded, which is something.
I love what I was talking to a lot of my people down in Kansas City, and they go, "This is how we're going to stop Saquon Barkley. You can't." They said we're just going to admit he's just going to run.
I like my NBA comparison. He's going to get his. You just have to make him work for it.
Yeah.
So instead of
also fun little Super Bowl stat, the Chiefs have not allowed a running back over 88 yards this year.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, that's what they said. I think that streak's going to end.
Is that right? Not over 88 yards? That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, but in Saquon, in the 19 games he's played, he's had 14 100-yard games.
Yeah, I know because I've been giving away jerseys every week.
I was going to say, Zander, how's the JAKIB Sports Fund going there?
Oh my God, look, Jeff, I'm loading back up. We're doing giveaways all week, man. We've been doing giveaways.
But first off, I don't know how you're finding the inventory, Zander. Like they're the hardest thing to find these days.
I know it's hard, man. There's no doubt about it.
It's like Tickle Me Elmo.
Yep, it's true, man. They're selling like hotcakes, the Saquon jerseys. All right, Jeff, we appreciate you doing it, man. Great stuff, as always, by you. Make sure everybody goes and follows Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Kerr CBS. Truly one of the best follows on Twitter in the football space.
And we didn't give you credit for playing through pain like Cam Jurgens.
Oh yeah, what was
Cam
that?
Jurgens and Jeff Kerr.
All right, so here's a fun story for you guys. John already knows it.
I gotta hear it.
So I'm playing basketball this week. I play in the league every Wednesday with a bunch of my buddies, bunch of guys I played basketball with for years. I'll say it, at 35, I'm the fastest guy on the team now. I just am. I was sprinting down the court.
No more. No, you're not.
No, I'm out for a month. So sprinting down the court, fast break like I always do. Get the easy points. Passes a little out of my range, but I still got it. And when I got it and went up for the layup, I pinched the nerve, pulled the groin, felt it right away, couldn't sit down. Oh, and my leg was numb for literally 2 days. And I got a puppy this week.
Oh, God.
So with the puppy, I'm taking a step to the left. My leg don't go. My right leg don't go where it wants it to. I fell, broke both my toes.
Oh my God! How are you walking the puppy? That's my next question. Then.
By the way, I was laboring yesterday, but I went through.
All
By
right,
the
there
way, then I don't want to say it. You could say it. I'm just going to give you the opportunity to say it. You don't have to say it. If you don't say it,
John knows.
I'm
You
not
know
gonna
the name of the dog. It's
name of the dog. Do you want to give the name of the dog?
Is it Saquon? Don't tell me it's Saquon.
no.
Barkley.
It's Penn State themed. Yes,
All right,
Penn
what is
State
it?
thing.
it's Barkley.
I knew it. I just called it. I knew it was going to be.
Hey,
Barkley.
I have a Barney, so I might as
All
well
right.
have a Barkley.
That's
It
why I
just makes
said
sense.
Saquon's having one of the great years in NFL history, but he's also got a great PR man, and that's my buddy Jeff Kerr.
I was
He
just
really
PR
does.
man on the Giants.
That is great. You named it. I saw a tweet from Hugh Douglas yesterday. It was hilarious. He was like, I don't know if you guys realize this. There's going to be a lot of white kids, a lot of white babies born with the name Saquon in the next year.
I don't know about
rolling,
that.
man.
I don't know about
cracking
that.
up.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
A lot of dogs named Barkley, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
All right,
you know what?
Jeff, we appreciate it, man. We got to
Yeah.
run. I got Chris waiting. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah.
We appreciate all
Thanks,
the time
buddy.
you've given us this year and another great segment. Thank you, man.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks.
There's
ya.
Jeff Kerr here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Jeff Kerr. Now we got Chris Franklin coming up next here on Birds 365. Before we get to him, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. You can see the promo code on your screen. It's YouTube 150. Go to betus.com.pa. Use this promo code. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Are you taking the Saquon over after you just heard Jeff Kerr tell you the Chiefs haven't given up more than, what was it, 88 yards from a running
88?
back? 88,
Yeah.
John?
That's what he said.
Yeah, so pretty amazing. Are you still going to take the Saquon over? I'll smash it. I love it. Great stuff, everybody.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. Johnny Mac's taking it. That means I'm taking it. Let's get to our